This is the beginning of part 3 of the Vintage Air install. I have a short clip here where the audio was bad again, but it will be corrected here in just a second. This is the defroster vent install that I'm showing you here. There's a correct way and an incorrect way. I ended up putting it in wrong and I had to go back and change it, and you'll see here in a second. And here I'm showing you the new hardware that it comes with, so you can use those, and along with the Phillips head screws that I wish I would have changed out. Here I'm showing the incorrect way. This is the correct way here, but the lower side is towards you and the higher side is closer to the windshield. You'll see it has kind of a slope to it when it's set in there flush against the metal. So what I would also recommend doing is getting rid of the Phillips screws that it comes with and finding some sheet metal screws or some 1/4 inch 5/16 screws to put in there in its place to make your life a lot easier. So next I'm going to try and put in the ductwork. And as you can see from the instructions, these two that are off to the side are going to go to the vents up here. These are the 2-inch diameter ones. The rest of that's is the 2.5 inch. You can pretty much tell easily which one's which. So the 12-inch one is going to go on the passenger side. The 28-inch one is going to go on the driver's side. I'm going to put zip ties around them. They came with 5 zip ties, but I might use a few more than those because the bottom of these is more like an oval shape, and this thing down here, all these connections down here are oval shapes. You're going to need to zip tie those, or else you're probably going to have air leaking everywhere. So that's the next up. We're going to work on that. So I've got my short one. And it does have little barbs on the ends of the plastic. I wouldn't really call them barbs. They're just a little plastic part that sticks out. And that's what's going to hold it on. Again, I guess I'd rather have something a little stronger holding it on than just those little plastic hooks, and also making sure I don't have any leaks. Yeah, it's over the little barbs. There's not much to them really, but on the flat side of these, there's a little bit of a gap. So I'm gonna try and put one of these around here and get that to pinch off a little bit better, so better airflow. I'll have to see if we can make it work a little bit better. And then the duct down here is the one that points to the passenger side. That's supposed to be 12 inches. That's plenty long. The hose is extra long. You've got plenty. You're not going to have to like stretch this thing. You're not going to have to stretch it way out to move to these ducts. This 12-inch one has got a lot of extra play in it. Yeah, it's just got so much space. Okay, so I took the vent back out because it's hard to tell from the directions. I put it in like this, with this part facing the windshield, thinking, you know, more air direction towards the window. But the more I look at it, the more I look at the picture, it looks like it's more like it's going to be like this. So I'm going to try it, but it's pretty difficult to get this on when it's underneath there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on like this. I'll try this side, and you can see there's these little, I call them barbs, but these little like plastic hooks that it's supposed to slide over. I'm going to try and slide at least 2 of the rings over it if I can. A little better stability. Means unfortunately I'm going to have to take the other one off and switch it around, but whatever. That's why I'm making the video. I'm making it for you guys so you can go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, don't do it the way he did, because you're going to save yourself a whole lot of time. So hopefully it will hold it so there's no gap in here for air to blow out. So it looks like it's working pretty good. Got that done. Move back down over to the side. All right, so I got the 2 defroster vents in and the ductwork to run for those. The next one is this one. This one goes down and it connects behind here around connection with this one that we cut off earlier. And you take this other piece and stick it on there. I put some silicone on there. It's got that little tab that the screw goes right into here to hold that in place. So this end part is round, and then I've got the other duct that I'm gonna run from there to back in here where these four are at. You can kind of see them in there. There's the oval shaped ones. So those are gonna go in there, and that was next. And this one that's on the ground, here's the other vent for the, oh no, that's the other AC one. And then this over here on this left side, those are the ones for all four of the vents, because there's the one here, there's gonna be a vent up here, and then on the dash there's gonna be a vent in that big hole and a vent in this big hole that mount to the back of the dashboard. So we're gonna go from there. We're gonna stick this baby on here. Let's see how well this one goes on. Tighten that up a little bit more. Back in here. Of course, we've got the bracket for the accelerator kind of in the way there, so that's gonna have to get stuck up in here, like so. This little one is the other defroster vent. So it's the two that are on the front by themselves. It's gonna go up here. In fact, I might just leave that one for later because it's gonna be in the way of these other four. And this one says driver's side louver. It says passenger, center driver, center passenger, and then driver's side. So that bottom one that's closest to me is the one that this big one's gonna go on to, that one over there by the door we just connected. And this was way too much hose. I did not need this much hose at all. I don't know why it told me to put that much on, but I'm just gonna stick them on for now because this is the outer one. The inner one is probably gonna be harder to get to because that inner one is going to be the one that goes up here. Probably could just put that one on here though. Center driver. Get that one in there. Get that one hooked up. Hopefully that works. Got the two defrosts done. Got 3 of the 4 vents done. The other vent right here in the front. Probably go and just hook that one on if I wanted to. And bring that one here so it's ready to go and hook up to that vent. Yeah, having the ashtray out of here is pretty important too. Like there's a lot of stuff you gotta finagle around, and having that ashtray not in there is pretty dang helpful. Okay, not too bad. Oh man. Well, all the vents are hooked up. Now all I need is a dash. So, next spot is this piece that's going to go in there. It mounts to that screws onto the back of the dash bezel. But I'm going to go ahead and connect this now so it's in there. I don't have to worry about which one is which. So that one is center side. So the back one back here. Put that in there. We're just going to move her in here like this for now. So when we get the AC hooked up and everything, we don't have to worry about. Alright. So this one is going to go straight down in here. It's going to connect to the one that's on the bottom, closest to the firewall. But the one that's in the front, one's closer to the front, as you can see there, that's going all the way to the side driver one. So we're going to bring that one in. The one that we brought in from over here, it's going to come down here. And for some reason it said this needed to be super long. We have a lot of slack on this one, so I'm probably gonna, I don't know, let's see what happens. I'm just gonna connect it for now. See what happens. All right, so that's 2 of them done. The other 2 on the right are gonna, or on the top, are gonna be the passenger side that comes out of here, and then the one that comes over way over here on the driver's side, passenger side by the door. Probably get those center. The long one needs to be that. Okay. 4 inches. It should be the passenger side louver. So that's going to go in the top one towards the back. And that one says it needs to be 45 inches, but I don't think it needs to be. But we're going to try it out and see what happens. This one I'm just going to kind of stick in here and zip tie in place just for now, just so it doesn't fall out. This one is going to go back in here. Yeah, this is plenty long enough. I don't know why. See, this one says passenger side. It's got to be the one to the right. It says it needs to be 45 inches long, and I didn't have enough. The smaller diameter one, I had plenty. There was more than enough, but when I started cutting the bigger diameter hose for all the vents, it seemed like it was like there was not enough. It said this needs to be 45 inches, maybe just because, but literally I can get this thing on here, no problem. Got plenty. I mean, it's not, the hose isn't kinked or anything like that, so I don't have to worry about not fitting on there. So yeah, that one's going on there just fine. I'm gonna try and get some zip ties on that one. There we go. Yeah, that one did not need to be 45 inches long, that is for sure. That one's plenty. I think it probably was more like 30 inches, maybe a hair over that. So there's plenty of duct work, and then the other one just has to go from here to here. It should be plenty long. So I've literally just about got it all done. I need to get this one in here. This one can come in. That's the other driver's side defrost duct, and that's going to go right down in here. The 2 that are on the front of the box, they're all by themselves. One faces passenger side, obviously goes passenger side. The other one goes to the driver's side. So next update for everybody. I have run all the ductwork and I mounted the computer in a new spot. So I'm still working on tidying up the wiring, but I keep on having to move things around and readjust everything. This one is here just because that's what's going to hook up to that vent. This vent is here just so tomorrow when I go to get the AC charged, I'll at least know that it's flowing out of those ducts. I just zip tied these in place just for now. As you remember, we had to take the glove box and slim it down. This duct for the defroster on the passenger side, hopefully that won't be in the way, but it's real thin on this side. It's a little bit wider over here. Might end up having to zip tie that kind of off to the side. Got my wires for everything else run. Still kind of have this hanging down, but I'm gonna try and do something different with that later. This is the antenna wire for the radio, so I'll worry about that later. The biggest thing was, as you remember above here, these holes right there. That's where that computer mounted, and obviously that can't go in there. So I took it out. The plastic bracket that was holding it, that mounted to the wall there, I took that, threw it away. This metal piece that held the computer to the plastic piece, I kept that. I just got another chunk of, you know, 1.5 inch, you know, sheet, like aluminum. It's about that wide also. Just drill the hole, put a bolt nut through that to hold it. And then up here, I just ran a big old sheet metal screw through both of them. You can see the aluminum piece in the back there, and that's pretty good. It's pretty good and tight there. You don't have a lot of wire to work with. I did not unplug these to move it around because I really didn't want to unplug it and then go to start it and something's up with that. So I left it alone. I didn't really want to mess around with having issues like that and have computer problems. So that's where I rerouted that. That should be okay there. I shouldn't have any clearance issues. There's one of the AC vents that goes behind it. For the other, I believe it's for the other AC duct, but we'll see. Then also the 2 bolts up here that are in there. What I did was, instead of trying to find like a right angle adapter for my drill or messing around with that, it's kind of hard to see through here, but what I did was I just drilled that hole, got a really long extension, and put the sheet metal screw through that way, and then this hole over here I just had to angle it up a little bit and move this out of the way. But as you can see, right through that hole, right through there, you can hopefully see those two sheet metal screws that are holding that in to help secure this the rest of the way. After that, just have to put my well, I went to go get a dash today, but the local place wanted way too much for it, so I said forget that. So I guess I'm gonna order one from someplace else, because they only had black in stock anyways, and Phoenix and black dashes don't really work very well. So plus it was too expensive. So we've got all this ready to go. It's all wired. Everything else should be hooked up and ready to go. I'm gonna worry about putting the dash or the glove box in and the ashtray back in later once I get the dashboard and do it all at once. One other little hiccup that I had with the wiring loom was when I went to wire it all up, the fan was running even with the key off. And I verified that brown wire that was the key hot, I verified it was hot with the key on. So what happened is the wire here with this big old red and big old white one, that goes directly to the positive and the negative on your battery. So what I had to do is that extra wire that I didn't quite know what I was supposed to do with, goes right in through there. Ran it through my loom that I already had, goes through in here, comes out here, and it said it needed to go to the negative also. So without this on here, your fan's gonna run 24/7, even with the key off. So I went back through my instructions and I figured out that I had bypassed that one, I missed that one. So you gotta have those two. And it says, I could probably ground it someplace else, but it says that Vintage Air recommends that you go to the battery connections for your positive and your 2 grounds. So, I don't know, works for me. Doesn't really look that bad, doesn't look too out of place. Not too worried about it. I went ahead and verified I had all my seals in. Everything's tight, everything's ready to go. The only thing that's not connected, obviously, is my purple to the black wire coming off the compressor, but they said don't do that until you've got it charged. So, basically, that's all we ought to do. Take it to the shop tomorrow, have them test it. Now that we've got the AC system all installed and it's charged and it's running, I was waiting on LMC to get new vents for this because I figured I might as well. I got a new plate for the front, a new trim piece. I dyed the old dash pad and I'm going to install these. So they have a little pin on there, and the trim plate that screws on here, the speed nuts, it snaps into here, and then this plate goes on the back of it to hold that in place. So everything kind of sandwiches together. So this is kind of free floating. It's got 2 in the middle to hold it in place while you're doing the rest of this, but it's 3 over here, 1 over here also. So
this is going to go in like this. I don't want to bend that up too much, but gotta finagle it in there. There we go.
Then test that out, make sure
That's rotating in there real good. Looks good. Back piece, make sure it's still rotating and open and closes the vents and there's nothing binding on there before I go screwing these down. These little pins that the speed nuts go on, you don't want to put them on and take them off a million times because it's pretty much just a plastic pin, and while it works good, it's not like steel that you can remove and put back on a million times. So once you got that in there, I would say don't put these on, but don't torque them down. You basically just want them snug. Just so it's not moving around in there. And the other piece that you are going to reuse this one that was with the truck, and remember it had those S clips that go in there. I'm supposed to have 4 more and I must have lost them someplace, so I'm not quite sure. So I just siliconed it on there and it goes like this. So this step off is actually going to be pointing up, but in reality when it's inside the truck it's going to be pointing down. So we're going to put that one on next. I know this dash is pretty old and beat up, but I know you can tell from earlier videos that I was talking about how a brand new one of these is $400, and the urethane ones we just can't use in Phoenix because they're just gonna fall apart. So new vents, working real good. New trim piece, new badges. Throw a dash pad over the top of this and you're literally going to see, this is good, the dash pad is going to come down here, so you're not going to see any of this here. You're going to see this down here, and I'm going to see probably that little bit, and that little bit, maybe that a little bit there too, but the dash pad is going to cover all this up here, so I'm good with that. So next is going to be test fit this in the truck and see how it looks. And then, if you remember, we have these metal clips on the back side. What you're gonna do is you're gonna have to take the dash and put it in kind of at an angle. And there's a hole here on the right side of the speaker. There's one here and here. Basically on both sides of the air vent. I think there's another one there by the speaker. It's a little metal pin, or like flange, not flange, clip that's gonna go in there and snap down and hold on to that. And then the other end, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 little plastic inserts there that you're going to screw in to the bottom of this. So we're going to test fit it and see how she looks. Go. I have those vents. The vents in the back side of these were kind of holding me back a little bit. I'm going to replace these little plastic inserts down in here. Are new ones, and put the screws in there, and it should be good to go for right now. Dash bezel will have to go on here in a little bit, but maybe the next video. So we're getting there. It's looking like a truck. Now that we got the dash back in, I'm going to go back to my instructions here. I've already got the side drivers or side passengers one hooked up, and I put the zip ties back on there. So next one is the, if you remember these 4, there's top, bottom, front and back. So this top
one that's closest to me is this one here, and that says center passenger. So that one's gonna go to this connector right here. So again, this one's, it says this one needs to be 15 inches long, and I don't think I got the wrong one on there, but let me just make sure. Then I've got the center driver one is the bottom inside. That one is going nowhere. Gotta retrace all these. That one's going up here to this connection here. That's the one that's gonna be that louver that's mounted inside the gauge bezel. Alright, so I got that one. This one is gonna connect to the back of here, and again it's that kind of that oval shape. So we're gonna have to smoosh that down. And I just like putting the zip ties on to help hold them secure, help them be a little bit more airtight so we're not losing cool air behind the dash. And also keep it from falling off, not have to pull this all apart again. Now this one is top. Closest to me is center passenger. That one, I think I'm gonna cut that one down because that one seems way too long. It really just needs to come right up here. And if you remember, we still got to get the ashtray inside of here. I think we're still going to have stuff in the way, but might just trim it down a little bit just to see what happens. This one up here, and I've put the clips in because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 the plastic inserts that go into the dash, and then I just ordered new hardware just because I wanted to keep it looking nice. So you're not going to see these sticking down the bottom here. So the last vent to go in is this one here. So it's kind of a tight fit, but it's got this round end, and that connects to that round piece, the one that we had to cut, shorten, and keep this half and connect the tubing to that. We're gonna have to, it's the one that connects to that. So I'm gonna get that connected. I took this plate back off just to make it easier to get that to mount into place where I need it, and then I can just put the plate back on there, and then there's a screw that goes through it right there that goes to that, and that keeps that all up in there and not falling down on you while you're working. So let's get that one next. So I'm gonna try and do this without absolutely getting in the way of the camera. That's in there, and then I'll do the one in the center dash when I get ready to mount the gauge cluster. When I get ready to mount that in there, and that'll be it. I think we can probably put the glove box in there, but we'll get that next. So one of the other parts I forgot to add in here is the plate that covers the hole for the fan blower motor. It's another two-person job. One person's got to hold the plate on there and screw in that bolt, while the other person holds the bracket on the other side and tightens that down on the other side of the firewall to close off that spot so you don't have any air leakage. Once you get that done, as you can see, It's this spot in here. It's probably kind of hard to see, sorry about the lighting, but that's where it's gonna go in there. And then this piece will go back into its spot, and that has the cover plate that we screwed in silicone there to block off the fresh air from coming in there. So I'm going to mount that back in there and finish up. As you can see, we got the dash in, screwed into place, got the vents replaced, and that new trim on the front, got that one in there. And then the one that's down there on the driver's side, this one here is the one that's mounted to the bezel. As I showed before, that one's all ready to go. Just trying to do some final adjustments to get that ready so we can mount that in there and be done with the final installation.
So you'll have to forgive me because my voice is gone because I've been sick for a while. So last time we got there, I was test fitting the dash. I've since got it in there and got the gauge cluster in the way I want it. I had to do a little bit of grinding on the metal to get it set in there because it seemed like it was just such a tight fit in there. I've got that mounted in. I'm getting ready to put the gauge cluster in now. I'm sorry, the dash bezel. Sorry. Dash bezel needs to go in next. And the vent that is up here, this is the one hose that I had sticking up here earlier, and it's right back here. So, I know we talked about length of the hoses. This is the bigger diameter hose, the 2.5 inch. If I was gonna make any, I know some of them like over here were like longer than they needed to be. If I was gonna make any of them longer than they needed, it would have been this one, because this one's almost gonna be a little bit too tight to try and get up there, and then for me to try and make this work, it's gonna be tight fit, because I'm gonna have to hold this here, because the gauge bezel has to go on after this, because it screws into this part here. So I had to take the stereo out, so hopefully I can reach up in there and get that. We're to see how that works. It's probably gonna be a super tight fit, but I'm gonna try and get that on there because it's gonna have to attach to this piece that we put in there earlier with those S clips. So that's our next challenge. I can't put this on after the fact because it's screwed on from the backside, so this is going to have to be attached and then put in at the same time. So I could detach this hose from the back of the box, but it's the lower one that's furthest away from you, so it's going to be kind of difficult to reach in there. And now that I've got everything back in, there's a lot of stuff that's in the way, and it's making this a little more difficult to get done. So that's gonna be my next feat. All right, so back, and I had to do some trimming on the inside of this dash here. I'm trying to get this thing to fit, and it's a fight, but I've got a couple screws in there. I've got her mounted. It's still kind of tight in some spots, and I'm not quite sure why, but I'm gonna make it happen. So this is where we're at. So now I'm gonna try and get this thing, and I'm gonna try and connect the back of this duct here. I believe we are, so let's try. Turn over ducts on there. Going over there, and there. Good. All right. So turn that off. Turn that off. Now, I'm still having some fitment issues because this is not wanting to mount very well down here. That screw's not lining up with the hole that's behind it down by this vent. In fact, it's kind of halfway covering that vent hole. But when I bought this truck, it was all in pieces, so it's pretty possible that this is not the correct dash, but I mean, it should be. These dashes were pretty much all the exact same through all the years, so not sure. Got all the other holes lining up. The gauges are all lined up nice. But my headlight switch, it still functions, but it's just a hair out of place. And this hole down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the whole bezel is about a 1/2 inch up and to the left of where it needs to be. But everything else is lining up, so I don't quite get it. So I'm gonna do some more finagling and try and make this happen. All right, so this is finally the end. The end. I've got my dash in, I've got my vents hooked up. My AC is all mounted. You can see it's on high. I got air coming out of all 4 of my vents. I haven't tried the floor, but I'm sure that one will work just as good. Yep, there we go. Switching down to the floor vents. One thing I did notice, I'll turn that down a little bit. If you want to turn the AC off, you gotta turn it all the way back to here to get that to come off, so the AC is actually off. You can go all the way back here to cold, and the AC is not going to kick on until you can hear it kind of kick on when that light turns on. So, and what's nice is you don't have 4 different speeds. Sorry, jet skin. So we've got basically in many settings as you want. It's just the slider. It goes left to right, which is kind of nice. You can kind of do whatever you want, or whatever speed you want. Obviously, you're probably gonna put it on high all the time, but it works for me. So, back out to the dash here, put it on cold. Go nice and cold. My dash is in, the vents are all in, everything's done. Finally, this job's complete. I know I added a little bit more because I had to do the dash install and all that other stuff, but you know, I wanted to show you start to finish. One other thing that I want to add, one of the last things I wanted to show everybody is I forgot to show you how I mounted this. This is the same bracket that was in there. This is where the air compressor mounts. You've got a hole back here, you got a hole here, then here, and then there. These 2 brackets right here are the ones that you're going to mount to the compressor itself. And it's going to come with a spacer. For mine, it had a 1/2 inch spacer that goes right there. And it had like a 3/8 inch spacer here. And as you can see, I tightened it down too much and cracked it. So that's part of my vibration problem. And then you had a smaller one, which is pretty much just a fat washer that goes in there. A thing that I did notice was this one here. This one cracked also. You can, where is it? You can kind of see it in there a little bit. But this one needed a spacer. I had to just grab a couple washers off the workbench and stick them in between there, because otherwise there was going to be probably about an 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch gap in there. So I had to throw a couple washers in there to keep that. For otherwise, you know, this bracket's aluminum, so it was going to crack just like I did down on this one here. I went to a junkyard because I was going to try and find a whole new bracket here to replace that. I got it, and it is broken also, so I can't use it. But one nice thing I did notice is that engine, the truck that I took it off of, had these 2 brackets. One goes down here to where the ground comes off the battery, and then this one goes down here. These 2 bolt right in here. I took those brackets with me, because when the AC kicks on, I get a real bad vibration. And I called Vintage Air, and they said they have no idea why. They said it should be working just fine. Only thing I can think of is it's vibrating because this is not secure enough, and it's loose, and that thing's falling out. So that's the only thing I can think of, is that's why I get that vibration. So I put these 2 brackets on, and that alleviated that vibration for now. So all done, finally completed.
Would I do it again? Yeah, I probably will. I'll probably do it to my Corvette somewhere down the line because it didn't have AC in it factory, and I would like to. So yeah, it took a long time, and it was a lot of test fitting and removing and a lot of work. So it was worth it, I will say that, because otherwise, you know, the old AC system, it just would have been chasing problems constantly, trying to get the thing to work, repair one piece, replace it, and then something else breaks down, and I just figured I'm going to keep this truck forever, so I might as well just put a good AC system in it. So that's it.